On the 12th of January, Bishop Barron released a video on 4 ways to grow the church. Um, I admire Bishop Barron a lot. I think if we had more bishops like him who are able to articulate their faith in such a beautiful way, the church would be different. I know he gets a lot of criticism, and to people who criticize Bishop Barron, I would ask, what are you doing? It's very easy to criticize a bishop when he makes a mistake in an interview or he says something that he could have worded differently. And we all remember the interview with Ben Shapiro, and he got a lot of criticism for that. But he's put himself out there to talk to different people in the American church and the American culture, really, in America. And he gets criticized from traditionalists, and he gets criticized from the liberals. If the liberals see him talking to Ben Shapiro or something like that, he gets criticized. And then if he doesn't get the interview right, he gets criticized from the traditionalists. So he creates a lot of debate. But I really do admire his passion for the faith, his love for the faith. And I wish we had more leaders like that in the church. And he gave 4 recommendations for growing the faith, which were to bring a family, pray, invite seekers to raise questions, and be kind. And I agree with him, and I encourage people to go to his video and look at what he said. But when he said be kind, he went on to talk about the obnoxious and terrible Catholic commentary that we see on social media. And I follow this because I've been accused of that, of being divisive, of being unkind, and so forth. And so you do have to take an examination of conscience. We have a duty to lead people to Christ and not to the polemics. But my question to Bishop Barron, I'm a layman and he's a bishop. My question to Bishop Barron is, on your third question, invite seekers to raise questions. As a layman, when people who are seeking Christ do raise questions about the Catholic Church, the questions they're going to raise are about what is in the media. What does the media say about the faith? You have to be able to answer the media questions so that you can open the door for them to the faith. And, we just have to look at the latest media coverage of our church. We have a priest who was excommunicated because he abused nuns, Father Rupnik, and the Pope rehabilitates him. We have a priest then who is the world's most pro-life priest who gets laicized because, okay, he could have done things better. He got very political, okay, but I mean, it seems very heavy-handed on one side, and on the other, we have, a priest nuns who have come out accusing him. If that priest, that Jesuit priest, was a legionary of Christ, who was accused by women of abusing them, there is no way, after the legionaries had, sanctioned him, there's no way that the Pope would come in and override what the legionaries have done. I'm just making an example of the legionaries because I was part of the legionaries of Christ. If it was a legionary of Christ priest, there is no way the church would. But because he was a Jesuit and an artist, he can get a private audience with the Pope last year, and he gets rehabilitated. And when you're talking about your number 3, invite seekers to raise questions, people will raise questions like this. They'll ask, okay, you're inviting me to your church, to the Catholic Church, but I see that this priest was in the media, because that's what people see. That's what people hear, is what the media talks about. And you have to be able to be coherent and answer, okay, well, yes, nobody's perfect and we're all sinners and so on and so forth. Yes, we're all sinners. But, okay, if you've been excommunicated for doing stuff in confession, and it's credible, and it's been investigated, and the Jesuits knew, and they did their investigation, and you get rehabilitated by the Pope, which did happen. It's very hard to bring people into the church and to answer questions when you see what's going on. We had Cardinal McCarrick, and it seems everybody in the hierarchy in the church knew of rumours. When you see this report coming out that he got rehabilitated by the Pope, we listened to Vigano, and I think Vigano came out of pure frustration at seeing what was going on in the church. So maybe Bishop Barron could, these questions that seekers are going to ask us, maybe there could be a playbook that we could read. So, so the Pope rehabilitated Cardinal McCarrick after, the report, and Pope Benedict had sanctioned him privately. Can you explain to me what's going on here? And the Pope sent him to China to do a deal with the communists that we don't know about. Do you know what I mean? It's very hard to defend what's going on in the church with people who don't understand the faith. The church is beautiful, and we have to lead them to an encounter with Christ. Once people encounter Christ himself, his body, blood, soul and divinity in the Eucharist, and they have an encounter with him, he will transform their lives. But to open that door so that we can bring people to encounter him, bishops have put barriers against the encounter with Christ. There have been literally barriers placed against the encounter with Christ for us trying to evangelize in the church. Barriers. Literally barriers placed by bishops to prevent us bringing people to encounter Christ in the Eucharist. Barriers. And this isn't I'm not pointing the finger at Bishop Barron, because I do think he's one of the good bishops we have in the church. He's so articulate. He's such a passion for the faith. But Bishop Barron, you need to talk to your fellow bishops, especially the bishops in the English-speaking world. Especially when it comes to priestly formation, what is going on? What went on? What is still going on? We don't need perfect men. We need men who are honest. Who are honest about themselves, open and honest, and say, look, this is who I am. And, if they mess up, they mess up. We don't need any more cover-ups. Especially the types of McCarrick. Look, in the Vatican today, I'm going to point to what Cardinal Kevin Farrell said on the record. So this isn't gossip or detraction here. This isn't me gossiping about Cardinal Kevin Farrell. Cardinal Kevin Farrell gave an interview in Ireland saying that he met Father Martial once or twice and left because of ideological issues. Cardinal Kevin Farrell left the Legionaries of Christ 10 years before I entered. He was ordained a priest in the Legionaries of Christ. Then Cardinal Kevin Farrell went to live with Cardinal McCarrick. And he said he was absolutely shocked and he knew nothing about the allegations. He went on, there's that video there. Then we have in the McCarrick report that he did know of rumours of McCarrick sleeping with seminarians. So how can you be shocked at one side and then know? And this is the type of thing that people are asking questions. Okay, how does he get to the Vatican? He got recommended for the position in the Vatican because of his connections with McCarrick. And then we're wondering what's going on in Rome. I'm sure he's a good man and so forth. But, it would be good if Cardinal Kevin Farrell could explain how he only met Father Martial once or twice in the Legionaries of Christ, when the Legionaries of Christ was a much smaller organisation, when his own peers in the Legionaries of Christ and his own peers who left the Legion say it's not credible. It's not credible. And that's just one example that we can talk about. Because I was a Legionary of Christ. I do know how they operated inside. And I do know how Father Martial operated. And you didn't just meet him once or twice. Because I certainly didn't meet him once or twice. And this was I was at the peak of the Legionaries of Christ in the 1990s. Guys, when people raise questions, we need to be able to answer them, but we have to have transparency. We have a Pope that's coming down very, very, very hard on liturgy, but when it comes to faith and morals, he's, open. We can discuss faith and morals here in the church. What is marriage? What is our sexuality? What is gender? Is there any clarity coming from our Pope on these issues? People want to know, what's the rule book of the Catholic faith? What is your rule book? What do you stand for? What did Christ stand for? Did he stand for confusion, or did he stand for what way? So it's a very passionate topic of mine. But I would ask, when, be kind. Yes, we need to be kind. But on your third point, invite seekers to raise questions. So many people will raise questions because they know I'm a man of faith. I love the Catholic Church. I would never leave it. I love my encounter with Jesus Christ. And in me trying to lead them to know Christ, I have to get over the hurdle of answering questions that are in the media. Why did Father Rupnik get rehabilitated by the Pope, it seems? There doesn't seem to be clear answers coming from Rome on this. How did McCarrick last so long where he did? How did he rise? Who helped him? Who knew? Who covered up? What did the Pope know? These are questions that people ask us. And you can't just fob them off. Well, look, people, we have to be able to answer them. Bishops need to be able to answer them. Cardinals need to be able to answer them. We need to, if you've messed up, just say, okay, I messed up and made a mistake. That's all the Pope needs to say. So I would ask priests and bishops and cardinals in the church, if you want to renew the faith, you need to clean house. You need to clean house at the top. You need to clean house at the top of what's going on in the Vatican. We know what's going on in the Vatican. I lived in Rome for 9 years. I know what went on in Rome. I have friends who worked in the Vatican, and they were shocked. Laymen, laywomen who worked in the Vatican employees, and they are shocked to see what some clergy get up to in the Vatican and the money spent. Are we going to start Cardinal Bertone's jacuzzi? Guys, come on. Lay people aren't to be able to spend the money that was spent by him renovating his apartment. It beggars belief. How can we lead people to Christ when the leadership of the Catholic Church here on earth, those who are the overseers, the bishops, don't have a coherent strategy to preach the faith? They're not coherent. There is a lack of coherence in the church, and that drives the frustration with us laity. That drives, the toxic atmosphere that we see in social media with Catholics. Bishop Barron spoke at the talk, trumped up. I think he was taking a swipe at certain American bloggers. Those men, those Catholic bloggers, they're frustrated. We're frustrated what we see in the church. We are frustrated. Yes, invite seekers to raise questions, but you better be able to answer those questions when they come asking. And you just can't say, well, look, these are things we don't talk about in the church, or we can't answer. We have to have answers. We have to be able to talk. We have to reform. We have to have transparency. We have to have prayer. Bishop Barron is absolutely 100% right in having prayer. Start with the liturgy. Let's have a liturgy that's centered on Christ, on drawing people to prayer, centered on him, return to him, orient the church to Christ. America had a great woman, Mother Angelica, a great woman. What a woman. She transformed the Catholic faith in the church. I mean, what power Christ gave to that woman. And she created a beautiful shrine to the Blessed Sacrament in Huntsville, Alabama, which, by the grace of God, I was able to visit twice in 2019. And, she had that beautiful booklet in the pews about, what Vatican II said and what it didn't say. And she had the priest saying the Novus Ordo ad Orientem, the people receiving communion, kneeling on the tongue. That's the Mass centered on prayer, on Christ, who Christ is, the Eucharist that we respect. How can we call people to prayer when the source, so much in the center of our faith, the Eucharist, is treated like a cookie? With people who sanitize their hands in this new COVID right. God knows, 3 years, 4 years, when's it going to end? I am so glad. Thank God. I thank God for every day that, long before this pandemic came, I knew what my calling was to renew the Eucharist. I knew what Christ asked me to do. And he asked me to do something very simple, was to kneel and receive him on the tongue. Nothing controversial. I wasn't promoting Latin Mass or, I love any Mass. I'll go to any Mass. But, prayer. Prayer. How can we pray if we can't respect the Eucharist in the church? We have no coherence in the Roman Catholic rite as regards how we should respect the Eucharist. And we're asking people to pray. If we had Eucharistic coherence in our church, this division, this bickering, this noxious stuff might be different. Leadership. So the bishops, cardinals, if you want to renew the faith, start renewing it yourselves. Give leadership. Get down on your knees and give leadership. Give leadership. What are you there for? When I hear some homilies that bishops and cardinals give, I wonder, did you ever have personal encounter with Christ? Did you? Did you know him? Do you know him? How much time do you spend in prayer? Do you lead us in prayer? It seems Rome is spending more time destroying Eucharistic reverence and going after traditional Catholics than actually renewing the faith. I don't know. They couldn't say the Roman canon at a pope's funeral. And I asked the question, why couldn't Rome say the Roman canon at Pope Benedict's funeral? Simple prayer that was said for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Talk about the hermeneutic of continuity. So, anyway, don't go on to more. I do want to praise Bishop Barron, but I do want to ask those who can to lead, to be leaders, to be men, lead in the faith, because if you're asking us, Bishop Barron, to invite seekers to raise questions as laity, we need a playbook of how to answer these questions that are in the media about the Catholic faith, about leaders in the church, because you have to get over that and able to lead them to Christ. It starts from the top. Leadership starts from the top. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.